Hi, this is zebracode.io, and we're on lesson 12, and we're looking at files. And so the first thing we need to do is to have all of our documents stored in one folder. And I've created a folder called homework, and within that there's lesson 12. And here we can see we have our .py files as well as our database files. And so let's go ahead and open demo.py, and we're going to just start by looking at text files. And if you're doing this on Python Anywhere, our browser-based integrated system, similarly, you should be on Homework Lesson 12, and you can upload the files. You can upload the CSV files and the text files that we have here on zebracode.io to the same folder and work with them in the same way in case you are doing this online. We're going to continue doing this at our local PC, and so we'll have all the files. We can move those files there easily with File Explorer or Windows Explorer. Let's go ahead and start by writing some code. We've seen this code in the introductory concepts video, and now let's go ahead. I'm going to create a variable called capital F is assigned the value of open, and I'm going to look for the file independence.txt. Again, this text file needs to be the same place as our py file that we're writing right here is. And I'm going to open it up in R mode, and now I'm going to create a new variable called R. And before we do that, let's iterate through for x in file. So this is going to go line by line in file, and to make it a little cleaner, instead of using x, let's call that variable line. So this opens up first independence.txt, the text file, and now we're going to go line by line for line in f in the file, and we're going to iterate all the way through. So what I want to do is define the count of the line count. So I'm going to create a variable called count. I'm going to initialize it to 0, and then as I increment each line in the file, I'm going to increment count. Count is assigned the value of count plus 1, and at the very end I can do print. There are whatever number of lines that it finds. I need to take count and convert it to a string. There are X number of lines in the file, and so let's go ahead and try to run this simple code that opens up the Declaration of Independence and finds out how many lines are in that text file. I appropriately go to python demo.py, execute it, and it says there are 176 lines in the file. So if I want to do something a little bit more interesting or add on to this, I can also find the word count. And so I'm going to have another variable called word count, and I'm going to assign that to initialize it to 0 as well. So we now have two variables initialized, and I can do words. Words is going to be a list because we'll use a split method of a string. So we can take line. This is each line within the Declaration of Independence. I'm going to split it, and now I can count the words or the length or the number of words in the words list by using length of words. And so I'm going to have word count assign the value of word count plus the number of words for each line. And at the very end, I can not only print the total number of lines, but I can print the word count. And we can update the text here. There are whatever number of words in the file, and let's save this and run this again. And now we should get not only the lines, 176 lines, but 1,340 words in the file. So that's some simple analysis we can do. We can do a lot more. Let's try to find the largest word or the longest word. And I'm going to create a new variable called long word, and I'm going to initialize it to 0 as well. And in addition, we'll eventually need another variable that stores that value, but let's just see if we can find the length of it for now. So as I go through each line, I create a split, so that gives me a list of words, and that's stored in a variable called words. That's a list of words. And now I can iterate through that list for W in words. If length of W is going to represent each word in each line, and now I can say if the length of that individual word is greater than the longest word in a variable called long word, then I'm going to assign long word to equal the length of that word. So this goes through and it finds a long word. Each time it finds a longer word, it substitutes it into a variable that we have called long word, and at the very end we'll have the length of that longest word. So let's create a third line of output, and the final print statement would have the length of the last word. So this design pattern we're going to see often. We're going to open a CSV file or a text file. We're going to search through. We're going to find the maximum or the minimum, and we can use this type of logic to solve those types of problems. So in this case, the longest word is going to be stored within a variable we called long word, and we can print out all three displays, all three results to the user. So let's execute this script. We type python demo.py and we get there are 176 lines, there are 1,340 words, and the longest word is 15 characters. Finally, let's try to find out what the word is that is 15 characters, which represents the longest word. So we can create another variable, and we'll create this variable will be called longest word, and it's going to be initialized to an empty string because the longest word will be an empty string. So now once we find the word where we're storing long word, we can create a new variable called longest word, or we can use that variable that we've already created and assign it to W, which is at that point the longest word, because if length of W is greater than long word, that is the longest word, and we're saving the length, and now we're also saving the word at that time, which is the longest word. And we can run this again, and we don't get any new output because we didn't print any output, so we can add one more print statement. Let's copy and paste this last print statement and put it in. And the last thing we want to do in the fourth line is to print out the new variable that we just created, which is the longest word. So let's go ahead and run this the final time, and we should have the final output. And we're searching through, and we get the longest word is 15 characters, and that longest word is undistinguished. So if we count that, that is 15 characters. So we've basically gone through the entire file and find the longest word within the Declaration of Independence. So those are the types of analysis we can do. It's good for understanding authorship. So we often have algorithms that test to see who wrote this document. Maybe it was written long ago. If we study the current documents that that person wrote, we can maybe make an hypothesis if a known document was written by a person. We can analyze complex sentence structure, word lengths, and there's just many different opportunities, whether we're studying text or CSV files. In the next demo, we'll look at some CSV files, looking specifically at Zillow rent prices in different regions. Thank you. This is zebracode.io.